Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about low information voters. And I had a barbecue, or we had a barbecue lunch recently with a bunch of lawyers, and some of them have got very successful legal practices, making lots of money, receiving lots and lots of government contracts on big bucks. So all of these people live in, water views, waterfront, the most desirable postcodes in Australia. I doubt any one of them would be worth less than 10 million bucks. And there was also a few affirmative action, or the women who were there, they were all affirmative action sort of engineering degrees, chemical engineers, ordinary high school students who magically get PhDs as soon as they go to university, and then are given affirmative action jobs in some sort of government department. But so anyway, that was the crowd. Now, somebody mentioned that with the presidential election coming up, it's a real problem, says one of them, that all those feral, troglodyte rednecks, there may be enough of them just to get Trump over the line. All those feral people, those low information voters, the people who know nothing, understand nothing, they're just Nazis. In between the mentally retarded and the Nazis, there may be enough people there to. I mean, how terrible that would be. It's going to be terrible given what an incredible breath of fresh air Biden has been. And the people Biden's got around him are like really smart guys. Biden's gathered some really smart guys around him. Anyway, that was the general sort of consensus and mention, and I waited till that line of talk had exhausted. Then I sort of asked a few basic questions, and this just indicates and illustrates how low information these people are. Now, bear in mind, these are they all come from Ivy League universities. Many have been to expensive private schools. They've been gifted, either through cronyism or affirmative action. It doesn't really matter which. They've been gifted some very juicy, very well-paying gigs, multi-million-dollar legal contracts for work that just, if you had to itemize the work they did, you probably couldn't. So clearly it's a gift from buddies to other buddies, and just part of the cronyism patronage network. And they're all kind of recipients of that. In fact, I'm the only one there who's not. Anyway, I say, well, Biden is the most popular president in United States history by vote tally. This is at the presidential election. And just about every head around the table turned in my direction. So, well, what do you mean? Well, he got the most votes. He got 81 million votes, and he beat Obama by 12.5 million votes. And he was the previous title holder, if you like, for the most votes in a presidential election. And again, there was sort of a stunned silence as these people tried to sort of compute that. Can you prove that? One says, it's in the electoral commission vote tally that you can see online. 81 million and some votes for Biden, and they were clearly confused by this. 81 million, but then somebody repeated. So you're saying he beat Obama by 12.5 million votes. It's in that order, between 12 and 13 million votes he beat Obama by. And then there was some head shaking and people looking at each other. And you say you can prove that. Well, again, you have a look online. It's clearly stated there in the electoral tally numbers for presidential elections. And there was some nodding, and you could see the look was, I'm going to check on that. I'm going to look that up later. But it threw them into confusion. Then somebody said, well, the reason he beat Obama so much because everybody hated an idea of a black president, so they wouldn't vote for him. Okay, well, let's explore that then. So Obama did win the vote, though. He won the election and became president. So if everybody hated him and didn't vote for him, how could he have won the election? Again, there was more confused looks and more sort of hesitations and umming and ahhing. And I said, anyway, Obama held the all-time record for presidential, the number of votes for a presidential election before that. So he can't have been a subject of evil Nazi fascist white hatred if he won the election and was the most popular president in electoral numbers in US history. So that doesn't stack up, does it? Then there was a certain sort of quiet as they, well, that was one of my best talking points. Shit. But the point I'm getting to, not that they were wrong, but they didn't know, that they had no idea. They were shocked when I told them that Biden had the record and that he beat Obama by millions of votes. Then they tried to say everyone hated Obama. And thought, no, that can't be right. He had the record and he won. So then that sort of threw them into confusion and not knowing what to say. And we went through a few pretty sort of basic stuff. And sort of, it's unusual that Biden, it's strange that Biden could have got that many votes, given that he didn't campaign. He could barely put a coherent sentence together. And he was up against a fairly popular guy in Trump. So, and yet he beat the most popular president in history by 12.5 million or so votes. That would strike anyone as strange. And actually, I got some nods from around the table. Yes, that does sound strange. Then I came back with, who wins the election isn't important. I mean, it's important. But the real issue is the probity and the standards. The free and fair and all this, the security of the election. And that means that if we're going to have completely free and fair elections to the highest standards of probity, then that means sometimes people we don't like are going to win. Maybe Trump's going to win. Now, you may not like that, but is anyone around the table going to disagree with me that the probity of the election process is the paramount issue here? There was not much of a hesitation, and everyone kind of nodded and agreed and murmured, yeah, okay, no, that's right. We do want free and fair. So it doesn't matter whether you like Biden or don't like Trump or did or don't like whoever. The idea that he beat Obama by that much when he didn't campaign, when Obama campaigned quite aggressively, and he's quite a good speaker. So Obama campaigned aggressively. He's been trained to within an inch of his life to get up on the platform and talk from the teleprompter, which he does quite well. So you got a guy aggressively campaigning, working really hard, getting out there, quite a good speaker. He's up against a very weak candidate in John McCain, and then you see he wins that by a decent margin. But Biden doesn't campaign at all. He's a very weak speaker, and yet he beats Obama by 12 plus million votes, and he's up against quite a popular candidate. Just on probability alone. Now remember, these are all lawyers. Just on the balance of probability alone, that doesn't stack up, does it? And you could see from the looks around the table the lunch table. You could see from the looks around the table that they didn't know any of this. And once that was presented to them as an argument, they struggled with it. They couldn't. None of them came back and said, "Well, obviously Biden won because he was a sterling candidate," or none of them said anything like that. One came up with, well, Trump just couldn't make the same votes he got last time. I said, no, Trump got more votes than he did in the previous election, so that doesn't hold up. Are you sure about that? Absolutely, categorically sure. And you could see they were going to check on that as well. So I went through, talked this through with them. I mean, they had or someone had introduced the topic, so I talked it through with them. But as we went on, I was staggered at what low information voters they were. This is all stuff that's easily accessible in the public domain, but they're getting their news and their analysis and their understanding of the situation from MSNBC or from the left, the Guardian or CNN or something. They're getting their information from the super anti-Trump, super pro-globalist, super anti-Trump type media outlets and accepting it as fact. They're not even going beyond what they're told. And again, these are lawyers. Their job is to find facts and discover facts and confirm truth and confirm balance of probability. And yet that they were amongst the lowest information voters I've come across. There are a couple there that were ideologically sort of insane. Like, well, I don't care whether Biden won legitimately or not. As long as Trump didn't win, that's all I care about. You know, there was one guy like that. And the guy was a fucking idiot too. But again, going through the, you know, I talked about what one of them asked, why do you think, you know, Biden's 81 million, apart from the obvious, why do you think that those numbers are suspect? So I talked about how the amount of mail-in votes where there were broken chain of custody, where there was no signature matching, where there was very unusual numbers favouring Biden in certain areas that weren't necessarily Democrat, where you'd expect like a 55-45 split on the vote at best. And it was, you know, 97-3 or 98-2 in favour of Biden. So I spoke about those sort of things, or where there was 10,000 voters registered at one address, 99.9% all of whom voted for Biden. You know, I went, you know, none of these things were investigated. Then somebody came back and said, well, Trump took it to court and he lost in every case. I said, well, no, he didn't lose. The court said that he didn't have standing, that the court wouldn't accept hearing the case. So they said, no, we're not going to hear this case. So too bad. So it was an issue of standing. Now there was some 100% Democrat-packed courts that turned down, you know, quite compelling evidence in favour of Trump. But that overall, it was an issue of standing. Even the Supreme Court wouldn't hear the case. Understandably, you know, you can see judges say, well, this is a political matter that needs to be sorted out politically. You guys need to make law, the politicians, you know, need to make laws to clean up the electoral process. It's not for the courts to. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it is for the court to intercede that, you know, was there electoral fraud, yes or no? Do the facts support that? And they could make a declaration there was electoral fraud. Should there then be another election or a recount or something else? That, I think, is a political matter. But was there not fraud? I think that is a legal matter and should have been sorted out by the courts. But just talking through, it didn't really matter. These people were low information vote. Well, they don't have to vote in the United States. They're Australians, but they all have got an opinion on Trump. They're all anti-Trump. They're all, you know, Biden won fair and square. They're all, but they had no information. They've been told that. And a few of them, they're just, well, Trump's bad, so what else do we need to know? You know, they come down that Trump derangement syndrome attitude. But again, it's a low information voter. Now, if you've got some hick from out in the rural sticks who you know, left school at 14 and has been chewing hayseeds ever since, there you would expect a low information voter. You know, there's all the circumstances and conditions suggest or imply you'd get a low information vote. But these aren't. These are city dwelling guys, Ivy League schools, Ivy League colleges, Ivy League jobs, wealthy postcodes. They don't. You know, their household income is between $1 and $2 million a year. They're doing very nicely, thank you. And yet they are just as low information voters. Maybe not in exactly the same architectural, structural way, but they're exactly the same in terms of low information voters as the rural hayseed chewing, you know, tobacco spitting hick. So that surprised me, the extent of the low information. And you know, I got the impression at times during the barbecue that I was talking to children. They seemed to struggle to compute it. They were so caught up in the ideology of things that they really thought, well, how can I deny these facts? If they're facts, if I accept these facts and they're true, if I accept these facts, then I have to also then by extension accept that the 2020 election wasn't above board. But if I do that, I then have to accept that Trump maybe won, and I can't do that for personal, emotional, ideological reasons. And so you could see they were, you know, squirming and writhing with these facts, which they were unaware of, and they didn't know. None of them, not one of them, knew that Biden got 81 million votes, or allegedly got 81 million votes, and was the most popular president in US electoral history. None of them, not one of them, knew that, and I was staggered. I thought they would have known. But would have argued that he was legitimate. None of them knew that Obama was the previous record holder, and none of them knew that Biden had beaten Obama by that much, which they all conceded was close to an impossibility. But it's interesting there. I just thought I'd mention that low information voters can come from the best educated, richest, most privileged people. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.